Namaste, and welcome to the third in my series of Yoga for Turds. This is a place of safety for all turds and their relatives and family. So, if you're a turd, like my sister, or if you know someone who's a turd, perhaps this series will be for you. Today, we're going to focus on a meditation on impermanence. You see, oftentimes turds have a great deal of difficulty latching on to the world, white-knuckling their way through life, having difficulty letting go. So turd, if this is you, sit your turd self down at my feet and listen to the parable of the mustard seed. Gautami was her family name, but because she tired easily, she was called Kisa Gautami, or frail Gautami, much like my turd was often called Sissy Turd, or Brat for short. She was reborn as Savati in a poverty-stricken house. When she grew up, she married, going to the house of her husband's family to live. There, because she was the daughter of a poverty-stricken house, they treated her with contempt. After a time, she gave birth to a son. Then they accorded her respect. But when that boy of hers was old enough to play and run hither and about, he died. Sorrow sprang up in her. Thought she, since the birth of my son, I, who was once denied honor and respect, in this very house, have received respect. These folk may even seek to cast my son away. Taking her son on her hip, she went about from one house door to another, asking for medicine for her son. Whenever people encountered her, they said, "Wherever did you meet with medicine for the dead?" So saying, they clapped their hands and laughed in derision. She had not the slightest idea what they meant. Now, a certain wise man saw her and thought, this woman must have been driven out of her mind with sorrow for her son. But medicine for her no one else is likely to know. The sage of the 10 forces alone is likely to know. Said he, "Woman, as for medicine for your son, there is no one else who knows. The sage of the 10 forces, the foremost individual in the world of men and the worlds of gods, resides at a neighboring monastery. Go there and ask him." The man speaks the truth, thought she. Taking her son on her hip, she took her stand in the outer circle of the congregation, around the seated Buddha, and said, "Oh, exalted one, give me medicine for my son." The teacher, seeing that she was ripe for understanding, said, "You did well, Gautami, in coming hither for medicine. Go enter the city, make the rounds of the entire city, beginning at the beginning, and in whatever house no one has died, from that house fetch tiny grains of mustard seed." "Very well, reverend sir," said she. Delighted in heart, she entered within the city, and at the very first house said, "The sage of the 10 forces bids me fetch tiny grains of mustard seed for medicine for my son. Give me tiny grains of mustard seed. Alas, Gautami, said they, and brought and gave to her. This particular seed I cannot take. In this house, someone has died. What say you, Gautami? Here it is impossible to count the dead. Well, then enough, I'll not take it. The sage of the 10 forces did not tell me to take mustard seed from a house where anyone has ever died. In this same way, she went to the second house, and to the third, and to the fourth. Finally, she understood. In the entire city, this must be the way. The Buddha, full of compassion for the welfare of mankind, must have seen. Overcome with emotion, she went outside of the city, carried her son to the burning ground, and holding him in her arms and said, Dear little son, I thought you alone had been overtaken by this thing which men call death. But you are not the only one death has overtaken. This is a law common to all mankind. So saying, she cast her son away in the burning ground. Then she uttered the following stanza. No village law, no law of market town, no law of a single house is this. Of all the world and all the worlds of gods, this is the only law, that all things are impermanent. So you see, Turd, all things are impermanent. And just as all things are impermanent and die, all things give life. Just as an orange fallen to the ground and taken by the worms, dead, will regrow into maybe one or more orange trees. Just as the leaves behind me fall in the autumn as it is now, they must fall so that the spring may bring more leaves and buds to the trees. And just as the water runs down the stream, never in the same place, always moving, so too shall we always be changing and moving. So Turd, buck up. Things are going to be all right. Just different.